Hi everybody, Kaiwaza with you. Welcome back to the Kaiwaza channel and another edition of the Cheap Lounge. I don't want to speak prematurely, but I think the microphone issue has been resolved, which has just been the purchase of a, rather than a Bluetooth microphone, just a plug-in microphone, and I think it's working okay. If this video is up, it's working okay. We'll see. So this is the program where I show and talk about and do needle drops on some of the records that have been uploaded onto my hobby online radio station, Moody Mood Music. Old school, easy listening, middle of the road, beautiful music, whatever you want to call it. That's what it is. And here we talk about the records that are new to the station within the past, week or so. Up first, a record from 1960 called Double Exposures from Manny Albam and his orchestra. Kind of a cute cover there. So the idea here is that each track is a medley of two songs, but not just a medley. They actually have similar or the same chord progressions, the songs, and they're putting them sort of on top of each other and intertwining them in and out of each other and overlapping them. So kind of interesting. You might not, even if you're listening to it, realize that you're listening to two different songs. It may not strike you until some different point in the song that like, hey, when did this become that song? But it's an interesting concept and, cute album. We enjoyed it. This one, when I picked up this one, Joe Stafford by request. By the way, this is a, obviously a picture of her later in life rather than, at the peak of her recording career. This album came out in 1982 and it says it's a picture of her on vacation in Australia with koalas. So I saw this, I don't remember, somewhere, whether it was probably in Denver or Phoenix, I don't know, when you're going through 100 million bins and you're grabbing stuff and going, oh yeah. So when I actually looked at this, when I digitized it a few days ago really closely, I realized this was not newly recorded. I had thought probably this is, because you see these every so often, like a singer or, instrumentalist, whatever, from recording something after their heyday, like a couple of decades later, just recording another album on a private pressing or whatever, small pressing. That's what I thought this was, but it isn't. These are songs by Joe Stafford and the Paul Weston Orchestra that are specifically not her hits. These are not her hits, the songs on this album. And there are, on the back, a few albums of songs that are compilations of her hits and others. So nice enough music. I love it. I love some of these songs. I don't know why they weren't her hits for her. I mean, who knows? September in the Rain, Early Autumn, Dancing on the Ceiling. Very nice renditions. What I learned, though, looking at these other albums, it kind of sparked something in me. I mean, like, why are there so many Joe Stafford songs and whatever? So I looked up Corinthian Records, and it turns out it is a smallish record company founded by Paul Weston, who was Joe Stafford's husband and an orchestra leader. And you could conceivably say Paul Weston is the father of mood music, because he is the first person I know of that used the term mood music in so many of his albums. I think he kind of coined that term. I don't know. Maybe not. Certainly you could say he's the father of it, though, really. Anyway, so yeah, it's kind of a, vanity thing. Corinthian Records, I guess, where they figured they would just like reissue some of their old stuff. Joe Stafford was married to Paul Weston, if I didn't say that. And, make a little moolah later on, right? We all need to pay the rent, and that's probably what they were doing. So, anyway, not new stuff from Joe Stafford, so to speak, from the 80s, but stuff that weren't hits for her. Here's a 10-inch. We do love the old 10-inch records. No date on this. Would have been the 1950s for sure. Possibly the 40s. I don't know. But it's I didn't. It's another one that I just, when I saw it, I'm like, ooh, I love the cover, and we're just gonna get it. It's obviously Moody something. Melody of Love. It's called Why I Love You. And then I realized, read by Franklyn MacCormack, not sung by Franklyn MacCormack, what this is. Okay, so this guy was a radio personality, but he became known. He had like all-night radio shows in, I think it was Chicago, I read, which at the time, was broadcasting very strong signal and broadcasting out across like half the country, if not the whole country, at night. Late at night, people in far distant places could listen to this station in Chicago, and they would hear Franklyn MacCormack playing lovely mellow music, and then interspersing that with him reading poetry with musical accompaniment, right? And when I heard the album, I immediately, on a personal note, hearkened back to my time at WOKE Radio in Charleston, South Carolina in the 80s, where I worked, because they had a program called Moonbeams. And it was the owner of the station reading poetry set to music. Every night from, I think, 11:30 to midnight, we aired Moonbeams. And clearly, it was a takeoff on this. He was very famous. Franklyn MacCormack had quite a following for doing this. There were other people that, of course, did it also. But now I realize, Moonbeams was like a tribute, sort of, or imitation Franklyn MacCormack program. I would say very funny, because it's sort of melodramatic readings. I mean, you'll hear in the needle drops, but it's very lovely. Not something, to me personally, you'd want to hear tons and tons of, but it's kind of like, Rod McEwen reading his poetry. Well, it's like Rod McEwen, except from like the 1940s, and not at all sexual, and not at all, it's very old school, poetry. There's one about a tribute to his mother on here. Loving someone throughout your entire life and whatever. So very nice stuff. Kind of amusing, I suppose, to modern ears. We would listen to it and kind of laugh too, but very sweet.
Well, hello there. With so many disturbing noises in our environment, sometimes even passing themselves off as music, it's easy to see why Moody Mood Music on Live365.com has a growing legion of followers who enjoy the quieter music, the music of orchestras, and with actual instruments, not synthesizers. Well, there are some synthesizers, but actual vocalists who didn't need auto-tune. Presenting great compositions and wonderful, tuneful melodies, harmonies, and enjoying rhythms. Won't you join the thousands upon thousands of fervent devotees to Mr. Kaiwaza's Moody Mood Music on Live365.com. Just check your search engine for Moody Mood Music, or you can click on the link below. It will take you directly there. I hope you enjoy the lovely records, vinyl records, being played all day and all night on Moody Mood Music.
Loved this record. I mean, you can't not like Henry Mancini, right? And he did 600,000 albums, and this is one of them, Hangin' Out. It's from 1974, and it has interesting songs. The Entertainer was a very famous song at the time, and some his remake of The Stripper. Not a lot of people remade The Stripper, honestly, after David Rose had a big hit with it. I mean, a few, but not a lot. And it's nice because it's not, the covers that people did of The Stripper were almost direct rip-offs of the David Rose arrangement of his own song. So this one is not, which is nice. Also on here, Song for Anna. I know that song really well because it was by a Hawaiian artist, Ota-san, Herb Ota, who that was an international hit for him on the ukulele, Song for Anna. He did an album, very nice album, and did 600 albums in Hawaii, but that was his one really known worldwide for it. Anyway, Song for Anna is on here with the Mancini arrangement. Very nice. But my favorite has to be Love's Theme, a medley of Love themes, and TSOP, The Sound of Philadelphia. So this just takes you back to, like, I don't know, Soul Train instrumental disco era or something. It's awesome. So I completely enjoyed this album. Uploaded quite a few selections to Moody Mood Music. And just briefly, from 1957, A Visit with the Fontaine Sisters. I love this particular picture right here. I just have to say, it's like, I don't know. I love it. Fontaine Sisters, we all know, right? The Andrews Sisters, the McGuire Sisters. There were the Lennon Sisters. Love them. You know, lots of sister acts around, right? And this was one of them. They had a couple of hits. They only did a couple albums, 2 or 3 LPs, only a few. They did have a couple hit singles. Now, they were mostly known for singing on the Perry Como Show for a long time. And then they, this is 1957, so it wasn't too long after that, when rock and roll started really to become a thing, they just chose to retire. They were okay. I think they were all, you know, married with families and blah, 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 and their husbands had other things happening, and they were just like, we don't want to do this rock and roll thing. We don't want to go in that direction, so let's just retire. And that's what they did. Nice album. It's the typical, you know. I have one. They started out with a different name. I don't remember their actual name. They started out with as an act. It was 2 sisters and the brother, and then the brother was unfortunately killed in the war, and the third sister kind of came into the group, and they then changed their name to the Fontaine Sisters, but they had an I-N-E, Fontaine, and at some point they dropped that and just became Fontaine. I do have one other record with them on it. It's not a full LP. It's a budget label. Evan, I think, was the label, and it's half of it is the Fontaine Sisters with a couple of their songs that were hits, although I think probably earlier recordings of it than the hit one. You know how budget labels are. And half of it with pianist Paul Payne, the other half. So, yeah, the only full album I have by them, Fontaine Sisters. And briefly, this Modern Records, Modern, aka later Crown, Rock and Roll by who? Don and Eddie. I don't know if they were taking, you know, kind of a clue from Santo and Johnny, but the Don and Eddie. This was also reissued later as, I think, Twangy Guitars by Billy Boyd, but same record. We love the cover. Most of this not usable for Moody Mood Music, but there were a couple of slower tracks that were kind of nice. So, yeah, a few tracks from Rock and Roll, aka Twangy Guitars. Finally, as far as the records we're going to talk about, we're going to have a little discussion about this one right here, because it's kind of interesting. Not so much for the music itself, but a little explanation of how things work in radio land, internet radio land. Honky Tonk and Percussion is the record. No artist listed. It's on Omega Records, a budget label. So 2 things happening here we should talk about. Cute recording. This one, it's all classical themed songs, excerpts or whatever, classical themes set to honky tonk in percussion. It's not really percussion. I mean, I guess the piano is a percussion instrument, but it's not like there's a lot of percussion going on at all. And it's really kind of half honky tonk piano and half saxophone playing together. They're playing together on it. Interesting, kind of cute arrangements of them. So the problem number one with this, to explaining how things work on Moody Mood Music, sort of behind the scenes. So I'm digitizing this morning, actually, and I realize as I'm digitizing it that these songs are not in order. They're not in order here. They're not in order on the label. It is not the order that they are. Now, it can be a little bit confusing if you don't necessarily, I mean, some of these themes, a couple of them I would recognize, but there are some that I'm like, okay, I don't know, is this, Chopin's Nocturne, or is it the Valse Lente or Mozart Sonata Number 3? I don't know which one this is, right? I know they're not in order. I know that from the ones I know. So what do? Well, thank goodness for Shazam, the Shazam app. I don't know if you all have that on your phone, but it's a great thing because you can just Shazam a song, be playing it. It's on your phone, an app, and turn it on, put it up to the music, and it will miraculously, most of the time, not all of the time, especially with Hawaiian stuff, old Hawaiian stuff, but it will, most of the time, pull up what it is. Not only the song, but the exact recording that you're listening to. So in this case, it was so helpful to have Shazam, because it would pull up, in every case, on every song, it was able to pull up what it was. However, because this is a budget label, Brand X, whatever you want to call it, of course, there's no artist listed on here, and this would have been reissued on several different labels under different titles and different artists, right? So it could be any number of things. So it would pull up the song, usually with close to the same title, very close to the same title of this, if not exactly the same wording. But always by a different artist. Some of it was like on a Crown record by whoever, Curly Q, Fingers O'Toole or something. And then the other one, it would come up with kind of the right title, but it's by some other person on another record label, But anyway, that way I was able to figure out the order that these songs are on in the album. So when I'm uploading that to my hard drive, I'm able to put the right titles with the right songs, so I know. That's challenge number 1. Now challenge number 2 comes with actually uploading it onto the radio station, the software, and onto Moody Mood Music to broadcast out. It's especially challenging with classical themes, but it's something I deal with all the time, movie themes and whatever. Many times in life there are songs that have more than one title, right? It might be, let me think of Somewhere My Love, right? Somewhere My Love, da, 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 which is also known as, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the theme from Dr. Zhivago. So you'll find it on records both ways, Sometimes they call it Somewhere My Love, sometimes they call it Dr. Zhivago. Well, when you're going to upload songs onto the radio station, if it's the same song, they need to have the same title. I mean, you don't have to. I could just enter it however the record entered it. But then they might play back to back because the software is not going to recognize that that's the same song. I mean, if one of them on the metadata that I think they call it metadata, that you enter in says, Somewhere My Love, and you have another one that you've uploaded of that song that's called Love Theme or Theme from Dr. Zhivago, it's not going to distinguish that that's the same song. So it'll play them back to back, and you'll hear the same song, a vocal rendition or a different orchestra or whatever. But you could hear that if you have different variations, and you have to decide how you're going to actually, within that, in classical, you can imagine this gets even more difficult. How are you going to list it? Because it has to be identical. The way that you enter the song title into Moody Mood Music or the other stations has to be exactly identical. So you have to decide whether you're going to say, in quotes, Dr. Zhivago theme, or whether you're going to say theme from Dr. Zhivago, because it's not going to recognize that those are the same. In quotes, Somewhere My Love. You have to decide exactly how you're going to enter it, and it has to be entered that way exactly for every entry that is that song. Otherwise, the software, the programming, will not recognize that it is the same song. I think it's different, and it might play Dr. Zhivago theme and theme from Dr. Zhivago. back to back, because it won't recognize that they're the same song. So the classical themes you can imagine, like these, becomes quite testy. And I have to always check the other songs and make sure, okay, how am I listing this one? Is it, minuet in G doesn't tell you much. Do you say minuet in G in a bracket Bach? Or what I have been doing lately, and have changed most of them that way, is to say Bach's minuet in G. And a good example is this one, Mozart Sonata Number 3. Okay, you would recognize it mostly if you heard it, but I thought it's very familiar and I know it from somewhere else, like it's been popularized as another tune, which I figured out was In an 18th Century Drawing Room, was sort of a popular song called In an 18th Century Drawing Room. And I have some versions of that playing on the station. Well, Mozart Sonata Number 3, it's exactly the same. They hardly altered it at all. They just really added lyrics to it. So it is the theme from Mozart Sonata Number 3, but I'm not going to enter it that way into Moody Mood Music, because it could play that and In an 18th Century Drawing Room back to back, and you'd be going like, okay, I heard this already. You just played this song by somebody else, whatever. So even though it's Mozart Sonata Number 3, I enter it into the Moody Mood Music as In an 18th Century Drawing Room, so that they don't play back to back. Anyway, I know that's TMI, but it's just a little bit of the challenges that you deal with sometimes, trying to keep everything straight so that you're not getting repetitive music, and you have to figure out, and I do change. I'm so like Gemini or whatever. Every once in a while I do change my mind about something. For example, the Bach's minuet in G. I might have for a long time listed minuet in G and then in parentheses Bach, and something in me will just click and I'll go, no, I think it should be Bach's minuet in G. So I go, you can do it all in one click. I mean, you can change them all, and I'll change them all to like Bach's minuet in G, not minuet in G, Bach. I don't know. I'm weird that way. I do that with quotation marks too, because I go back and forth on style, like what should I really do? And I keep reading different things, whether it should be, quote, Dr. Zhivago theme, or whether it should just be, without any quotes, Dr. Zhivago theme. I don't know. Anyway, minutiae, but it makes me crazy. Yeah. Let's listen to some needle drops, okay? Enough of me talking already. Of all the songs, records we just talked about, plus some other ones that have been uploaded this week.
Why is it wrong to be young and foolish? We haven't long, you always go along. Defend him when he's wrong and tell him when he's strong. He is wonderful.
As over life's journey I go, am I living the life that she taught me to live in the days of the not long ago? Do it. And if God choose, I shall but love thee better after death.
It's sleepy time down south. Steamboats on the river are coming and are going.
All right, that's it. I hope you enjoyed that. Do you have any of these records, any of these artists, any comments about them, thoughts, questions? Don't forget to check out the radio station, Moody Mood Music. I don't make any money off of it. In fact, I pay a little bit to have it every month. I do have a Buy Me a Coffee link below if you're interested in that, and it really helps me out if you just go and listen to the station. Just listen to it for a while you're doing housework or, you know, working in the yard or whatever. Summertime coming. Laying out by the lake. I don't know. Because I do get credited for how many listeners there are when ads are running, so you get some taken off of your charge every month for that, so it helps me if you listen. But anyway, thank you for watching the video, and we will catch you next time, okay? Take care.